Have you ever met someone who is just magnetic in public? Super charming, compassionate, the absolute life of the party. But then, behind closed doors, it's like a switch flips. They become cold, distant, maybe even cruel. It's a really confusing experience, right? It's a paradox that can make you question everything. Well, today, we're going to unravel that mystery. And the key is all about understanding empathy in a way you might not have before. And that right there, that's the central conflict. It's the bewildering reality for so many people who are close to someone with narcissistic traits. It's like they're living with two completely different people in the same body. There's the one that's for the world, and then there's the one that's just for them. So you have to ask, how is that even possible? How can one person be both of those things? Well, the answer isn't as simple as do they have empathy or not. It's actually about realizing there are different types of empathy. And as we'll see, one type is there, but the other is just completely absent. All right, so let's really dig into this public versus private performance. Because, for everyone on the outside, this person might look like a pillar of the community. They seem so caring, so attentive, so generous. But for the people on the inside, in their inner circle, the experience is the exact opposite. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly describes what's going on. That public persona, it's a performance. It's a whole production, a grand play, put on to get admiration and applause. But what happens when the audience goes home? The curtain falls, the set comes down, and the star actor takes off the costume. And what's left behind is something else entirely. And this really breaks down that jarring contrast. I mean, look at this. The person who's so attentive and compassionate in public, at home, they can be indifferent, even hostile. The one who's super generous and supportive with their colleagues, they might be totally scornful of their partner's emotional needs. And we have to be clear, this isn't just a mood swing. It's a complete fundamental switch between the performance and the cold, hard reality. Okay, so how do we crack this code? How do we solve the puzzle? It all comes down to a really important distinction that psychologists make. There are two very different types of empathy. And once you get this, everything starts to click into place. So first up, we've got something called cognitive empathy. Think of it like this. It's head knowledge. It's the intellectual ability to figure out what another person is thinking and feeling. It's reading the room, noticing someone is sad or angry or happy. And here's the thing. Individuals with narcissistic personality disorder often have this skill in abundance. They can be incredibly good at identifying what you're feeling, even predicting your reactions. But then there's affective empathy. And this is the crucial missing piece of the puzzle. If cognitive empathy is head knowledge, affective empathy is heart knowledge. It's the ability to actually share the feelings of another person, to genuinely feel with them. It's that gut-level resonance, sharing their joy, feeling their pain. It's the difference between knowing someone is cold and feeling a shiver yourself. And right here, this is the absolute core of the paradox. A person can know what you feel on an intellectual level, but they don't feel it with you. They can say, I know you're sad, but they can't genuinely say, I feel sad for you. For them, your emotion is just data. It's information to be analyzed, not an experience to be shared. So the cognitive part, it's there. The affective part, it's missing. So that brings us to a really critical point. What happens when you have all the knowing but none of the feeling? Well, empathy stops being a bridge for human connection, and instead it becomes something very different, a powerful, cold tool for manipulation. Yeah, think about it. This ability to understand emotions with surgical precision, but without being, clouded by actually feeling them. Well, that becomes a huge advantage for someone who's motivated by personal gain. It lets them say the absolute perfect thing, make just the right gesture, maybe even fake a tear at the right moment, all to get what they want. Whether that's admiration, status, or just plain control. And behind closed doors, when there's no audience left to impress, this emotional coldness becomes painfully clear. A partner gets sick, and it's met with impatience, not care. A real problem is brushed off or minimized. You try to share how you feel, and you get shut down with something like, oh, you're just being dramatic. Affection isn't something that's given freely, it's rationed out. It's used as a tool to get something back. This leads to one of the most confusing behaviors of all, what you could call selective empathy.
You might see this person be incredibly kind and attentive to their new boss, or an important colleague, or even just a stranger they want to impress. But the second that person is no longer useful, that warmth just evaporates. It's a performance that's switched on and off like a light, depending entirely on who's watching.
But here's where it can get even darker. Sometimes this lack of effective empathy goes way beyond just coldness or indifference. It can actually twist into something much more disturbing, getting a genuine sense of pleasure from watching other people fail or suffer.
You've probably heard of this. The German language has the perfect word for it: Schadenfreude. It's that feeling of pleasure, that little bit of self-satisfaction you get from seeing someone else's troubles or failures. It's that quiet little smile when a rival messes up. For someone with narcissistic traits, seeing another person fall just reinforces their own fragile sense of being superior.
And this feeling, it doesn't always just stay a feeling. It can escalate into action. What starts as a little smirk when a coworker makes a mistake can turn into something much more cruel in a close relationship, like openly laughing when their partner makes a mistake in public, or even worse, using their deepest, most private fears against them in a fight. Or maybe even quietly sabotaging their little successes just to watch them struggle.
So what this means is that sharing your vulnerabilities, the very thing that should build intimacy and trust, becomes incredibly dangerous. The things you confess in a moment of fragility, your fears, your insecurities, they're not heard. They're recorded. They get filed away. And you can bet they'll be brought back later, sharpened into a weapon to humiliate you and to control you. So, what's the end result of all this? What's the impact of living with someone who has this profound emotional void? Well, the human cost for the person on the receiving end, it's just immense. It's absolutely devastating. The person on the receiving end gets trapped in this state of what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. It's so painful. Because the whole world sees this amazing, charming, wonderful person and tells you how lucky you are. But in private, you are experiencing coldness, indifference, and cruelty. So you start to ask yourself, is it me? Am I the one who's crazy? Am I just making this up? Your entire sense of reality begins to crumble. And the long-term effects are just crushing. Your self-esteem gets shattered because you start to believe you're not worthy of genuine care. You become emotionally isolated because you learn it's safer to just hide your feelings. All that constant stress, it starts to show up physically. We're talking insomnia, exhaustion, chronic pain. And the worst paradox of all is that you can become emotionally dependent, clinging to those tiny breadcrumbs of affection they throw you just to get through another day. Which brings us to one final, really sobering question to think about. When the empathy you think you're getting is just a performance, a tool that's only used when there's an audience, then what's actually real? In a relationship that's built on a foundation like that, what's left of truth? What's left of connection? What's left of reality itself?